Witchers, welcome back to the Witcher Lorecast. This is your host, Tom, or Robots. I'm here with Toasty, as usual. And Toasty, we're talking about a sorceress. We're talking about a magic lady today. I'm excited. Mm-hmm. I like the magic ladies in The Witcher. They're all really cool and interesting in their own ways.
Yeah.
Yeah. So today we're talking about, what's it say? Philippa Eilhart.
Oh gosh.
That's not, I read that wrong, didn't I?
No, yes, you did read that wrong.
Wouldn't that be ridiculous if there was a character named Felipe in The Witcher?
That would be very interesting, I think. Totally new vibe.
Totally different vibe.
Very Polish.
Although, I suppose if it was translated, I'm sure these works are translated to Spanish. I bet some of their names are things like, pretty typical Spanish fare. But normally we don't hear Spanish sounding names in The Witcher because it's Polish. Philippa Eilhart is the character. We talked a little bit about her last time. And so she has a variety of different names that people have called her.
Yeah. So we got Phil, which is kind of like her, I think Dijkstra's nickname for her. Philippa Eilhart, which I think is just a pronunciation. Poppy, when she was what's his face's pet owl. Jewel in the Court of Tredagor, in the words of Dandelion, Lady Owl. Sorceress of Tredagor, and she also bore the titles of a Lady of Montecalvo and Martyr Saint.
So there will be some spoilers here about what happens with her during her lifetime. So yeah,
it's okay. It probably won't ruin anything to do with her in season 3 of The Witcher because they're probably not going to stick to any of this.
Yeah, well, I guess that's kind of a benefit for our show in that we really don't have to worry about spoilers moving forward for the TV series because they're going to deviate so strongly from the other work. I mean, they're really only spoilers if you plan to read the books or if you plan to play the games. But even then, it's really, I don't know, they're still worth reading and playing. Mm-hmm. So, so we're just not going to spoil anything for the TV show. All right. Yep. All right. So what does she look like?
So she is a Redanian female human with dark hair, and depending on the source, either has black eyes in like her canonical description, like in the books, or yellow-brown eyes in the games that end up being gouged out later.
Yeah, we see her with this like bandage over her face a lot. Yeah.
She often uses cinnamon and muskroot perfume into formal events or a dress aligned with diamonds and ermine fur.
That's what I dress up like too when I go to formal events.
I'm sure you look lovely whenever you do that, Tom.
I am the talk of the night every time.
It's a good way of putting it.
Yep.
She also wore crimson colored lipstick.
So she's going for that like 80s, like bright red lipstick kind of fashion thing.
Yeah. I think was like description. I know for we haven't seen much of her in the show, but they did use a I think it was a black actress for her, if I'm correct.
You know what? I don't
for like a partial second.
Yeah, like it was so fast.
Like a second.
Yeah, she was on screen so fast that. Okay, so yes, she looks. So she's got the. Oh yeah, I remember this now. She has the like white gown with like the bird feathers on her shoulders. But she looks like she's either black or she has like mixed, some sort of mixed culture thing going on. We'll have to look into this. But yes, she's
Cassie Clare.
We're doing it. We're doing it live.
I'm Googling it while you're describing, so might as well, you know?
Yeah. So we're doing this live. And so there you go. So that's cool.
London actress.
Black eyes in the TV series. Then she has dark eyes in the TV series and the books, but she had these like yellow brown eyes in the game.
Mm-hmm.
Which again, they change the eyes in the game sometimes.
See that? So to be fair,
yeah.
I'd have to do some more to find out about her, but yeah, just IMDb page is just I guess a British actress. So
yeah, that's cool.
So as for her history, she's pretty involved, especially in like the Redannian stuff, as we heard last week. In 1263, during the First Northern War, she traveled with the Brotherhood of Sorcerers to Lower Sodden and fought in the Battle of Sodden Hill against the Nilfgaardian army. So she was also involved in that, which I don't know if that holds true to the show as well. Because
I don't think so. I don't think we saw her.
Granted, we didn't see a good chunk. We only saw really the ones that we like. The important ones, right? But I don't know if that meant that she was there and just in the background because they didn't want to they didn't have a casting for her yet or what. But I have a hunch that she wasn't involved in that, or maybe was involved like when the rest of the army showed up or something. I don't know.
That's true. She may have come with the Northern military and not been there with the mages who were there first. So that could be a thing.
Moving on to 1267, as the advisor to Vizimir II, she had strong relations with Sigismund Dijkstra.
Siggy.
Siggy Reuven, and was present at his meeting with Dandelion in Oxenfurt, discussing the location of Geralt of Rivia. She pushed Dandelion for information on Ciri under the pretense of being worried for her safety, though Dijkstra considered this a hasty move.
Yeah, they don't always agree. They're in cahoots, but they don't always agree about what to do or how to do it.
She's definitely like a hasty's a good description for like her though, because like she tends to like go towards the more extreme methods to get information, or just like jumps into things and goes for like really dark. I mean, like she sees Ciri getting attacked and immediately just gouges out a dude's eyeballs in her owl form, and it's like.
Yeah, okay. We didn't have to go that severe. All right.
Yeah.
Cool. Dijkstra is very methodical, he thinks through things, and he is, even in the games, he's portrayed as somebody who doesn't act without thinking. Mm-hmm. He's very intentional about everything, whereas she's kind of the opposite of that. She's kind of, more just like in the moment, makes decisions, is quick to react. And sometimes that comes out in severe ways.
Yeah. Later that night, as an owl, she followed Dandelion back to Wolfgang Amadeus Goatbeard's house, a friend of the Bard's, where she found Geralt, Dandelion, and the medic Shani.
I love that his name's Wolfgang Amadeus Goatbeard.
Yeah,
instead of Mozart
to go somewhere. Yeah, right. It's just like wait. They discuss Geralt's position of danger in Oxenfurt, and then when the topic of Riance came up, Shani revealed she had met him 3 days previous at the shop of a local merchant, Meerman. Meerman. The four went to the shop, and at the gate, Shani lured the man out so he would let down the drawbridge, and Geralt knocked him out. After Shani and Geralt attempted to persuade him, Philippa grew angry and turned to torture, using a painful magic that led them to the location of an amulet that could summon Riance. It's like, she got impatient and tortured the dude. It's like, all right, she wants the information when she wants it, and she will use whatever means to get that. At dawn, after Geralt had found Riance and incapacitated the four Michelet brothers, Philippa found Toublanc Michelet dying on the ground. Whispering words of comfort, she was able to deduce that Vilgefortz had recommended the brothers to Riance, revealing the corruption in the Brotherhood. She mercilessly finished him off with a stiletto and ran after Geralt and Riance. The two were fighting, and as Geralt went to stab Riance, Philippa paralyzed the Witcher, allowing Riance to escape through a portal.
So this is the inspiration for one of the scenes we see in the Witcher TV show, where Geralt's fighting the Riance and the other guys that he basically tears apart. He doesn't have a weapon to start out that fight, if I recall, and he tears them apart. But the other events here are very different in the way that plays out.
Yeah, instead of like the Temple of Melithala, they're in like the streets of Oxenfurt. And like, I mean, like the fight was cool, obviously, in the show. Like, they did real nice. It was a cool fight scene or whatever. I still, personally, this is one of like in the book series, this fight was one of my favorites. And so like, it was kind of like this is cool, but also kind of a letdown thing for the show, because it's the way it was done was like, so like, I don't want to say terrifying, but that was kind of the vibe of it, was because Geralt, like, he was like, hopped up on like Witcher mutagens and stuff. So he was like moving like super fast, like all stealth. So like, there was just the moments like the Michelet brothers like looking around, and it was just like, and it was just like, it was like a dart, it was like Geralt was a dart, and then there was a dude like dead on the ground, and it was just like, like these like terrifying.
They had no
like,
chance.
And it's like, so
it was like he was the monster stalking them. In a way, like that kind of level of just different ability.
Yeah. And Riance was able to hold his own like a little bit, but like Geralt definitely would have won that if Philippa hadn't like intervened. But it became a bigger deal of like, this isn't just about like, this is about Vilgefortz as well, so.
Right. And the corruption of the Brotherhood, and which leads to some other things that happen with the, division between the mages and all of that. So what's the next big event she's a part of?
So the next big event is the coup on Thanedd Isle. On the last night of June, she traveled with Dijkstra to Thanedd Isle for the Grand Mage's Conclave. Of course, there was the ball portion. There was a lot of talks about politicking and whatnot. She had multiple conversations with Geralt that night, like one with Yennefer and Geralt, and then one with just Geralt. Mostly like rumors and stuff. Like, it's how you expect all these like grand people at a ball to be, just talking like rumors and whatnot about
everything's everyone. Subtle, and everything's like double entendre and like all of that,
and condescending, like
Yeah.
So in the early hours of the morning, Philippa rallied several of the northern supporters and began to arrest those allied with Nilfgaard. After they were all rounded up, Dijkstra and Kira brought a magically blinded Geralt to Philippa, who restored his eyesight and gave Dijkstra a list of traitors within Redania found in Vilgefortz's office. Which is just like a side note on this. It's just very interesting that like Geralt got blinded and she had to like restore his like eyesight or whatever. And then we know what ends up like, it does like two different things, because her eyes getting gouged out as games, whereas this is books. But I think they probably took inspiration. This is a pretty nice little narrative thing that carried on.
I don't doubt that they took inspiration from that stuff. We've seen CDPR do that before in the writing. So absolutely.
The traitors were then led by Radcliffe to Garstang to face trial. Within the palace, Tissaia led out the Nilfgaardian traitors, and a fight broke out between both sides. Of course, at the same time, the Scoia'tael are storming the castle and like murdering people. After Philippa managed to flee the conflict, she polymorphed into an owl and found Ciri being attacked by Artad Terranova and scratched his eyes out with her talons.
Oh, yeah.
And Geralt finished him off. Believing herself in debt to Geralt for the escape of Riance, she allowed the two of them to flee without the council following, and then fled Thanedd herself. It was also believed during this night that she mentally took control of an elven assassin and used them to assassinate King Vizimir II.
Yeah, so she's got all sorts of different motivation, and like on the one hand, she's like, all right, I owe you for the thing I did earlier, and so she's like honorable in that way. But on the other side, she's like assassinating kings and, you know, plotting control of or at least a kingdom.
Yeah. So I thought it was interesting because I was like looking, because like specifically what I was finding is that there's nothing that actually like confirms that she did this.
It's like implied. It seems highly implied.
Well, so she later confesses like her like guilt for doing so, and then whenever Dijkstra like finds out and like he says too much, she sends assassins after him. So the evidence points that she did because she's trying to cover up. Right. But it's still like nothing is actually confirmed that she did do it.
Right. Which I think why respond that way unless you were guilty? Like that sort of thing. Yeah.
So because it is like kind of a weird thing. I think some like I was seeing a lot of like contested arguments because it just didn't make sense at the time for her to do that, like what she had to gain, because it just like the idea was taking more control over Redania, but like it just threw Redania into chaos. Maybe it was just unintended consequences.
Maybe she thought they would have more control over the situation once it was done.
They did get that council where her and Dijkstra were running things essentially. So I guess in a sense, but still had some pretty negative side effects as well.
All right. Well, that's most of the book stuff, but we've got a bunch of stuff to talk about with the games and other things. So we're going to do that after the break. Don't go anywhere. We got to go thank our patrons. So we'll be right back.
Very well. Let us get this over with. Something has infested my vineyard.
Mm-hmm. Great. Let me go prepare my something oil then.
All right, here we are in the middle of the show where we get to thank our patrons. Big shout out to all of our patrons. We don't have any new ones this week, but we do have our higher vampires, Ben of Temeria and Jared M, to shout out, and to everyone else who supports the show. Thank you so very much. We really do appreciate it. And also, if you want to help us out with a review on Apple Podcasts, we will read out 5-star reviews in the future. We don't have any new ones this week, but that's also an awesome way to support the show. Plus, if you are listening on Spotify, you can rate the show on Spotify on your mobile app. And now you can answer questions on every episode about how was this episode. So it's basically like the comment system from YouTube. So there you go. Lots of different ways you can help us out if you are enjoying the show. And if we're helping you get through your workday or your commute, or just helping you enjoy the games or the books or any of that stuff more, then we would appreciate even just a little bit of support. That would be amazing. All right, let's move on with the rest of the show.
You smell of death and destiny, heroics and heartbreak.
It's onion.
Right, yeah.
Right, yeah. They always that quote. We've heard that quote so many times now. It's onion, but like Dandelion. It's Jaskier in that one because it's the TV show. Jaskier's response of like, right, yeah. It's so good. All right, so let's talk about the video games, because the video games technically take place after the events of the books.
Mm-hmm. So in the first Witcher game, we don't ever actually see her, like meet her face to face. Though of course she comes up in conversation here and there. She's kind of a significant, influential figure. It is also speculated that either she or Kira Metz was speaking with Triss Marigold through the latter's magic mirror at the beginning of chapter 3.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the sorceresses throughout the game series all are in communication with each other, and there's things that are going on. So
yeah, the magic mirrors or the little like telescope conference things that they do or whatever in The Witcher 3.
They're Zoom calls. We'll just call them Zoom calls.
Pretty much. Yeah. That's it for just the first game. The Witcher 2 is significantly more of a presence. Philippa Eilhart maintained quarters in the dwarven town of Bergin, which she used to share with her lover and apprentice, a leashed sorceress Cynthia, as well as a house in Loch Muin. Geralt first had an encounter with her at the end of chapter 1 using Syle's megascope while investigating the disappearance of Triss Marigold if he aided Iorveth before the fight with Letho.
So this is one of those.
That's what it was. It's a telescope. I was
Yeah.
like, there was a scope in it. I got it. It was close.
Right.
So-
And this is one of those instances you could have missed out on if you chose a different option, because the game diverges. Like in the middle of the game is basically one of two options, and it goes one way or the other, and then it kind of comes back around to the end point. So you could totally miss out on sections of The Witcher 2.
She does have a journal entry in Witcher 2. This was hardly the first time Geralt and I encountered Philippa Eilhart, jewel of the court at Tredagor and once the trusted sorceress of King Vizimir II. Philippa was one of the most talented mages of those times. Only a handful ever mastered the art of polymorphy. Her intellect and the influence she held at the Redannian court were not to be underestimated. Proud, independent, and extremely beautiful, as graceful in a fanciful yet elegant dress as in a man's traveling outfit, she was beyond any doubt one of the most attractive women I have ever known. This is, of course, coming from the words of Dandelion. Yeah. Yet I would not count Philippa among the most pleasant of females, despite her indisputable though chilly charm. Her gaze alone was enough to make the most confident men shudder, and the mere thought of spending a night with her would make their flesh creep. She's terrifying. At the time, Philippa Eilhart was staying in the town of Vergin as part of Saskia the Dragon Slayer's inner circle. Her motives remained unclear, to say the least. The former court magician had never been known for her altruism.
Right.
Yeah. However, one cannot deny that without her help, Geralt would not have found his way through the magical mist. Philippa rendered him an invaluable service at that time. Her qualifications in the areas of curses, magic, and supernatural phenomena were undeniable. If there was anyone to help the Witcher in this regard back then, it was certainly Miss Eilhart. Still, I was extremely glad that it was Geralt and not I who was forced to speak with the Tredagor magician. It was Philippa who gave the Witcher the list of ingredients for the antidote for the poison plaguing Saskia. The knowledge of recipes, ingredients, and their specific properties is always extremely helpful in learning magical arcana, and few could equal Eilhart in that regard. Philippa tricked everyone, not only casting a charm on Saskia under the guise of aid, but also using Geralt and Iorveth in her machinations. On the other hand, it was inevitable. On the other hand, it left a bitter, on one hand, it was inevitable. On the other hand, it left a bitter aftertaste, giving rise to the thought that sorceresses' misdeeds are responsible for the widespread mistrust towards their profession and perhaps even towards the female gender.
Dun, dun.
Eilhart abducted Saskia and left for Loch Muin. Back then, we did not know what she was planning. And then if the Kaidwini win the siege of Vergin, so, something you have a choice in manipulating, fleeing the victorious Hinsult, Philippa Eilhart moved with Sile and Saskia to Loch Muin, where a summit of sorcerers and crowned heads was to take place. If Philippa Eilhart had counted on her troubles coming to an end in Loch Muin, she miscalculated. She was arrested by the Redanians just after arriving and placed in a dungeon where she awaited the king's judgment. In retribution for certain events of the past, and not to mention her recent activities, the sorceress was brutally blinded during an initial interrogation. Death seemed an increasingly likely prospect, and it seemed only a miracle could save her.
So that's when the blinding happens.
Yep.
Yeah.
Or if Geralt chooses to help Philippa instead of saving Triss, Geralt had no desire to help a magician who repaid his trust with treason, but Philippa's arguments were justified. Only she could lift the spell from Saskia, and thus the Witcher was forced to trust her words once more. One might have thought that a blind, exhausted sorceress would have no hope of fleeing, yet she seized a moment in which both her guardians were distracted and deceived them. Philippa Eilhart risked it all on one gambit and transformed into an owl, fleeing Loch Muin. Given the presence of the vengeful Iorveth, one might say that fear gave wings to her escape plan.
It raises the question of, can she see when she polymorphs into an owl? Do the eyes get replaced in the owl form and then she can see again?
So it's like, I mean, that's like a common thing for like playing like tabletops and stuff or whatever. I mean, even I dealt with that. I've played a blind character in a game before, and like according to like the ST's ruling, it like whenever I changed into an animal, I like got use of my vision mech.
Yeah, because like your whole form changes, like your whole body changes, and in the new body, the eyes work. So you would be able to see until you transform back to your regular self.
Yeah,
it's an interesting question.
Know.
Yeah.
I can't remember. Does she turn into an owl in The Witcher 3 at all?
I think so. I think she's still.
See it?
I think she's still polymorphs.
Close enough look.
I mean, even if you could see the eyes, you wouldn't know necessarily if the eyes have the ability to see, right?
Well, the thing is because like if you're like, because you assume that it wouldn't, like she wouldn't regrow blind eyes because she doesn't, like they were just gouged out. She just doesn't have eyes.
Right.
Like they're empty sockets.
Right. But in a polymorph, like it's not like she has feathers and the feathers change size into an owl size feathers. She doesn't have feathers. So like every part of the owl is new. Her body
well, it's
completely.
Just like, you would assume that if the eyes either wouldn't grow back at all and remain empty sockets, or they would grow back and have the ability to see.
Right.
So if there's eyeballs in the owl, I assume she can see. Also, that would be, if she couldn't, that would really suck because isn't like an owl's like best sense vision. So.
Yeah, birds in general rely on eyesight a lot.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I guess even if you can't see, you could at least flutter away and at least go somewhere in order to escape and then figure it out. You can
fly and you can like just use like, your sense of orientation to like be like, this is up. So I just fly up.
I would assume so. Yeah.
For people to hit me.
I would assume so. Yeah. And then just very carefully land somehow.
Somehow.
Weird. Yeah. So that's not the end of her story for the games. She's in The Witcher 3.
Mm-hmm. In The Witcher 3, she has a journal entry, but it's going to be most of the same information. So, I'm going to skip that for this one. Philippa reappeared, having survived Lochmuin. She fled to a hideout in southern Redania. In the quest Return to Crookback Bog, Geralt found a doll with obvious signs of black magic performed by the crones used to control the person this doll represents. The feathers on this doll immediately reminded Geralt of Philippa, but there was no definitive proof that the doll, in fact, represented her. She contacted Margarita Loantile, explaining her plan to regrow her eyes by cultivating tissues on precious stones, just as Vilgefortz did, and to revive the Lodge. She went to Novigrad to seek help from her former lover, the sorcerer Arthur de Vlister. Having humiliated him in the past, de Vlister convinced her she'd be safer in her owl form and then attached a dimeridium band around her ankle. Following de Vlister's execution during the witch hunts, Philippa fell into possession of Zoltan Shive, who affectionately named her Poppy.
Right. Yeah. Now, when she had the band around her ankle, she couldn't then transform out of owl form.
The band prevents them from using magic, and I think it's just a form of magic.
But that's when she was stuck as an owl. Am I remembering that correctly?
So she couldn't, because she couldn't use the magic to polymorph herself back into human. Right. So she was just stuck there. Until he later lost her to Sigismund Dijkstra, who made the mistake of removing her dimeridium band. She returned to human form and attacked.
Nice. Good job, Siggy.
Which, like, I'm also like, does she change the image of her owl, or is it the same owl? It's like in the show we see the same owl.
I mean,
I think we see the same owl in the game. Like, would you not recognize the owl and be like,
you would be like, all right, and it's an owl with a band around it to keep it from casting magic. I wonder who this could possibly be.
I was also like, he knows what dimeridium is. He he'd be like, okay, like, I don't know. He wants to punish you. I figure like the best thing would be like, you can just be my pet owl forever. But he took the band off and was like, come on, man.
What did you expect, buddy?
Yeah. Only Geralt's intervention put an end to a rampage. Philippa was then recruited to help stop the Wild Hunt in exchange for amnesty from Emperor Emir Var Emrys. After Margarita was rescued from Oxenfurt, she and Philippa met with Ciri to offer her equal partnership in the Lodge, to which she declined. If Geralt chooses to participate in the conspiracy to assassinate Radovid, Philippa spied on a meeting between Geralt, Dijkstra, Roach, Ves, and Thaler in her owl form. Subsequently, she changed to human form and spoke with Geralt when he left the meeting, telling him that Radovid won't take his word, and he had her captive and provided him Vizimir's ring to legitimize his story. Following the deaths of Radovid's escort by Geralt and the Temerians, Radovid banged on a nearby door only to find Philippa waiting for him. She blinded him with magic dust as payback for taking her own eyes before stabbing him in the back, killing him, after which she polymorphed into an owl and disappeared.
And it's a very handy skill.
Yeah, flying is such a useful thing.
Yeah. Did you see the Dungeons and Dragons movie? I went and saw it this weekend.
Not yet.
Yeah, there's a druid who polymorphs and it ends up, of course, very useful. But yeah, man, polymorphing. It's definitely one of those things you should learn if you're a mage. Like, work on that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Philippa later assisted Geralt in seeking out the Sunstone to help in their plan to lure out the Wild Hunt. While searching through the Skellige Caves, Philippa criticized Geralt for having an overprotective attitude towards Ciri, stating that the Lodge were not a pack of wolves he could scare away with his sword, to which the Witcher insisted that he could because they were.
He's like, no, that's exactly what you are.
Yep.
It's a pack. You're a bunch of sorceresses who are looking for every advantage in any situation you could possibly take. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like, he would know. He's a wolf witcher. He knows how wolves are. Once they found the Sunstone, Geralt assumed that she would take the artifact for herself, but Philippa insisted that that was not the case. She then revealed her intentions to take Yennefer's place at Emir's court and become Ciri's advisor, and hoped Geralt would take Yennefer with him and leave everything to her.
You two just go off and have your honeymoon or whatever, and I'll take care of Ciri. Don't worry. Oof. Yeah. So that, I mean, she's a cool character. Like, that's the sum of all of the events. And you have this other thing here, the Witcher Battle Arena. What is this?
Yeah. So this is like a long defunct game at this point, but she was a playable hero in the MOBA or the Witcher Battle Arena.
Oh man, remember when everybody was making MOBAs because like League of Legends and Dota 2 exploded?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So there was like, I mean, there's a whole bunch of things about like her abilities and like skins you can get, but it's not really important. It was just the fact that she's a playable character in this one.
Yeah. That's cool. That's cool. I mean, she's a cool playable character. Powerful sorceress. So so that's it. That's everything we've got about Philippa. And
also point out a comment. Let's Not in chat says you meet her as an owl in Witcher 3, but she's wearing that Falconer's blind thing. So like seems like she's still I think she's still blind. Probably it's just kind of like I have this thing that makes it, kind of would show that, I guess. So yeah,
interesting character, well written. I mean, as with all of these characters, we like the way they're written, but the fact that she is like, she's quick to react, she's very powerful, she's very dangerous, but at the same time, she's also very helpful when things align, like many of these powerful mages. If their goals align with Geralt's, then often they'll work together. But then their paths don't always stay together.
You just can't trust her.
Yeah,
like you can work with her, but expect her to stab you in the back, either metaphorically or actually.
Yeah, or gouge your eyes out.
Yeah. So
there you go.
Yeah, don't be blind in your trust with her.
Yeah. So if we're going to project into the next season of The Witcher, what is her role? do you think that she is... I'm just trying, because we haven't seen her much until now. She's been flying around as an owl in some very specific scenes. Do you think it's as simple as she wants to get at Ciri just like everyone else does? Wah, wah, wah. Or do you think there's a little bit more to it? Like, is she working with Dijkstra, and so now there's like this like undercurrent of political stuff and them trying to take control? Are we going to see some of that?
I think, I mean, obviously there is that goal because now it's like an underlying thing because they had the whole like council meeting at the end of the season with like all of the kings and Tissaia, kings and queens in Tissaia, talking about like getting Ciri essentially. And I'm sure that King is going to relay that information to Dijkstra and have him out there looking because, you know, he's the spy master, and one of his tools in the certain like, but we learned from this season is Philippa. Like he uses her as like communication, as spying, like getting all this information. So I think definitely like that, but I mean, she's definitely going to have ulterior motives as well, because like, that's what I hope so. If she doesn't, then like that's just like
that's not her character.
You've just betrayed the entire like idea of the character,
right?
But like,
right,
like that's like her thing is like, you know, like she will work towards these goals, but she's always going to have a side thing,
right?
And then we'll end up switching that, and hopefully, I mean, hopefully we still get the Lodge of Sorceresses. So she's obviously going to play a big part in that because she's kind of the one that brings everyone together for it.
Yeah.
You know, she facilitates the Lodge of Sorceresses. So that'll be an important thing. I don't know if that'll be a this season thing, if we'll ever get it, because this season, I don't know if it'll just be the end of it. Who knows?
Yeah.
So
yeah, I hope we see like an assassination. I hope we see like this like, yeah, things are going, you know.
I think like, I feel like they have to have like these big events, even if they change a whole lot. Like the coup on Thana, it's such a big thing. I feel like they have to have it. I don't know if that'll be a season 3 thing though, considering where we're at in like the books,
right? Like,
because I mean, we got the first 3 done essentially, and I think the coup on Thana, it happens like this towards the 6th. Whichever one the Tower of the...
Yeah, but they're going to... I feel like at this point, they're just going to jump... Like, they're really just going to cherry pick some of the key moments and move them around in ways that just... I mean, that's what they did in the last season. They just kind of pick some moments and move them around and where it made sense for the story they were trying to tell. And then everything else was just made up. And so I think we're going to see more of that. I think we're going to see like, well, we got this character and there's a coup, so might as well just do that part in order to raise the tension, or, you know, then we got to do the political thing. So let's put this over here, or everybody now knows who Ciri is. So now they're all going to come after her. So let's just speed ahead to that part or whatever.
Yeah. Nice. I mean, just because like she's personally one of my more like favorite like secondary characters in the whole series, just because how like very like interesting she is. But so I'm hoping that they just do her justice in the portrayal, because we already know the Dijkstra's kind of weird. Like I think they came like a like crazy vibe going on, which is like okay, like, so I don't know what like side like creative liberties they're going to take with Philippa, and I'm just hoping that it's nothing like horrible, so, or something that makes her seem like a character that she's really not.
I'm concerned that they're going to make her like somebody who's like under Dijkstra's thumb, and not somebody who is a peer or is actually more equipped and more informed than he is. Like that, I think that could be that dynamic, but to have just like, oh, this is the sorceress who was working for Dijkstra, like they could make it super lame if they go that direction. Yeah. So, yep. So, all right. Well, Well, I guess we'll find out. We'll have to just wait and see. But that's it for Philippa Eilhart. And Toasty, what do you think we're going to do for the rest of this month? Where do you think we'll go next? Got a bestiary coming up for April. It's April already. That's crazy. We've got a few other characters. And you know what? When we were going through this and you mentioned the crones. The crones in The Witcher 3 are some of the most interesting characters in the entire game, in my opinion. I mean, everybody can have their own opinions, but the crones are like mysterious and dark, and the way that storyline plays out, there's really not a good answer. Like, everything's bad, and it's just dark, and they are messed up.
And they have some of those banger music in the whole series. I love the Crone song. It's so good.
Yeah.
I mean, that's like it's like a pseudo bestiary episode, kind of.
Character slash
monsters, but also like characters and like
right.
So
it would be interesting to dig into that, because I don't know exactly how much information we have about their background, because as far as I know, they only show up in The Witcher 3. There's no precedent for them, unless you're aware of something that I'm not.
I don't believe so. I believe that's a Witcher 3 specifically.
Right. But they're good. They're ancient. I mean, they're bad. They're evil, but they're good characters, and there's a bunch of ancient something going on there. So pretty cool.
So I still want to talk about Vizimir's not really all that important, despite like him being around for a good chunk of stuff. We kind of know everything he does. So, but there's still obviously a lot to talk about with King Radovid, because, you know, he does a lot of stuff in like the games and whatnot. And then we had gotten requested that we do either like water hags or foglets for our next bestiary episode. So plans for the month. So Radovid's probably going to be like a chunk. So
a chunk. Sounds good. All right. Well, that's awesome. What other stuff you have going on before we head out?
Still doing the Cyberpunk Lorecast with Genesis. Just taking a tour over there, talking about different parts of the cyberpunk world that people don't talk about as often. We were on Japan just recently, so big name in the cyberpunk universe.
Yeah, all the different locations, and yeah, for sure.
I also do the Cyberpunk Red Live Play podcast, Cyberpunk apostrophe D, with the Fumbling For and Almighty Crit Gang.
There you go. Yeah, go check that stuff out. Also, you can find those shows at robotsradio.net, and all of the other shows that I do, which include things like the Lord of the Rings Lorecast and the Elder Scrolls Lorecast. I'm going to Vegas for the ESO event next week, but we're going to have a regular episode because it's before I leave for the trip. So that'll be fun. And thanks for tuning in. Chat, thank you for being here. We're going to head out. Have a wonderful rest of your week. And until next time,
stay safe on the path.
I'll see you later. Thanks for tuning into the Witcher Lorecast. We'd love to hear about your experiences with the games and the books and the TV series and all your thoughts on everything. Please check out the Robots Radio Discord and follow us on Twitter at Witcher Lorecast.
You've been listening to a Robots Radio podcast. Smart shows for interesting people. Check out all the shows at robotsradio.net.